I'm working in the New Perspectives Microsoft Access 2010 textbook. I'm in tutorial 3 on page 132, and I'm going to define record selection for a query. I'm going to create the Holland Customers query that you see on page 132, 133, and then make the modifications and change the datasheet appearance as you see on pages 135 through 138. So let's start by clicking Create. I'm going to create in Query Design, and I need the customer and the contract table. So I'll bring in Customer, Contract. The two tables will show that they're related. The fields that I've been asked to add are at the top of page 133, and they're company, first, last, phone, address, email. Oops, it looks like I left out city, and when you do that, simply grab the field that was left out, drag it and drop it in the position where you want it. It will go into that position, and it will move any fields to the right over, so my email field is still there. Then I need contract num, contract amount, signing date, and contract type. Before I make additional changes to this query, I'm going to run it just to see what it looks like. So I'll click Run. My query works. I have 64 records. That is a number that should match the number of records in my contract table. It does. Now at this point, when I run a select query, the number of records that you have in the query will be no larger than the number of records in the table with the most records that are included in that query. Now that will change. But at this point of the book, you can use that as kind of a double check, just to see that if my contract table has 64 records in it, then a query that I have that is based on the contract table, that has no criteria added, should also have 64 records. But again, that's only this far in the textbook. So now I'm going to go ahead and save the query. I'm going to save it as Holland Customers. And I'll switch back to Design View and add my criteria. So my criteria is going to be Holland. I want those customers that are located in the city of Holland. So I'm going to type in Holland, move off the field. I might have to hit Escape before I move off from that criteria row. And because it is a text entry in a text field, it's surrounded with quotation marks. I'm going to run it, and I have 12 records. Now the book tells me I'm supposed to have 12 records. But another way that we could check this is if we weren't sure if Holland was spelled correctly, is I could try something like H-O, if I can get that in there, H-O-L, and a wildcard. Now we'll actually get into this in a later chapter. But then I'll run it and I'll find out what things begin with H-O-L. Because I was just thinking about how might people misspell Holland. And they might misspell it with one L instead of two. So I still have 12 records. So I'm going to go ahead and put the criteria back the way it was. I did that by clicking Undo. Now what if we wanted all of those customers who are not located in the city of Holland? There are a couple different ways we could do that. We could try doing not Holland and see how that turns out. I have 52 records. Now originally I had 64. I have 12 from Holland. 64 minus 12 is 52. Apparently my query worked. Then referring back to page 132, you see that not is not on that list. But the not operator is of less than, greater than. Let's give that one a try and see if it works the same way. 52 records. So we looked at what we can do if we know the name of the city and we know how to spell it. And that was when we put in simply Holland here. We also looked at what if we think the city may be misspelled, where if people are putting in H-O-L-A-N-D instead of H-O-L-L. So we used the wildcard, HOL wildcard. And we tried it that way. Now you notice that Access automatically puts the like in, and you'll see that more in Chapter 5. And we also looked at what would we do if we wanted all of those customers who are not located in the city of Holland. And we used first the not operator, and then we used the not equal to operator. If I can get a hold of that. Here. Now I'll take that out because we do want to have those customers who are located in the city of Holland. So I'll go ahead and save that. Now I'm being asked to modify the query by removing the show box from the city field, and you can see why. My query says Holland customers, and then I have Holland repeated. So remove that and then move some fields around. So to keep the field from showing, I just remove the check mark from the show box. Now I've been asked to move the fields from the contract table to the beginning of the query design grid. So to do that, I'm going to click in the selection bar above the fields. That's when my mouse becomes a down pointing black arrow. I'll click, hold, and drag until I've selected those fields. Now I want to point back to that selection bar. My mouse becomes a arrow pointing up and to the left. I'm going to click, hold, and drag. That dark line tells me where those fields are going to end up when I drop them. And I'll bring them all the way back to the beginning and drop them there. And I'll run it again. Now you can see those fields have moved to the beginning of the query in Datasheet view as well. Okay, the next thing that we're asked to do is back in Datasheet view, so I'll run this query again, make sure I save it again, is to change the datasheet's appearance. If we were working in Excel, we would know that we need to select the whole datasheet. But in Access, whatever you do to one cell in Datasheet view, it's basically going to do to all of them. So I'm going to go up to and find alternate row color. And in the alternate row color, I've been asked to choose dark blue text to lighter. So I'm going to look for blue. There's dark blue text 2. I got lucky on that. It was just the first blue. And then I'm going to look for dark blue text blue lighter 80%. It's the first one. I'll click it. Now, if you're asked to change the alternate fill color, change only the alternate fill or the alternate row color. Don't also go up and choose a background color. So let's get rid of that. Just change the alternate row color. The next thing we're going to do is change the font size to 9. And you see as I do this, it's changing all the rows. And then I'm going to grab all these rows. Now because my screen is size so small, I'm going to start from the far right and go back. And then selected them all. Find a column divider between any two columns and double click on it. And it will resize it. And it resizes them only to fit the current view. And so I may have to scroll over and resize some of the columns individually. Okay, let's see how that looks. Looks pretty good. So we've walked through looking at creating a select query with criteria, looking at different ways of writing that criteria. We've moved some fields around. We've added an alternate row color. We've changed the font size and resized the row.